I've spent a lot of time on this channel making a ton of arguments against cEDH and just criticizing the format altogether. And honestly, the majority of it was done at a time where I never really touched the format. I was an outsider. And in the past couple of months, I've actually gotten a chance to play it a ton at my LGS. And in that time, I've gained another perspective on all of said criticism that myself and my peers have had in the 1v1 space against this multiplayer variant. So much so that I cared enough to try and solve the format's issues, or I wanted to see the format get better. And that's what I'm hoping to do with this video. The timestamps are going to be very important for you to skip to the sections that you want, but what I do with Logan from CriticalEDH is sit down and have a discussion about where we're at with cEDH, addressing the 3 big problems the format has had in terms of 4th player seat, the amount of draws, as well as the 11-hour game or just time in tournaments. And I think I can honestly say, as someone who plays plenty 1v1 formats alongside multiplayer, it does seem like currently cEDH has way less problems than any other format of Magic. But cEDH being a community-led format and effort has led to really big changes over time, and I feel like it's one of the best formats in Magic right now, especially in terms of playability and accessibility. So without going too far into it, let's hop right in the video. Again, timestamps are down below, and a big shout out to Logan from CriticalEDH, who we've had a lot of really bad faith back and forths on about, primarily thanks to me, and I'm hoping to use this video to create a new path forward and kind of rectify all of that bad faith. Hello everyone, thank you for joining me for this video here. We're, as kind of suggested by the title and thumbnail, trying to do something actually amazing here, where we're trying to take a look at cEDH from the perspective of maybe someone that is way more experienced than I am, and kind of mixing that with someone that is maybe relatively newer or more so uninformed for the larger parts of it, and trying to find a way to create a piece of work that maybe has some solutions, some critiques, and some honestly good outcomes at the end of it for the format. We've had a lot of criticisms on this channel for this format, especially for someone that actually plays a ton of it more recently, I should say. So it's, I think, about that time where we have, instead of bad back and forth, bad faith discussions from my end, instead of having that, we proceed maybe in a more logical manner and have some good faith discussions, and again, as I said, solutions. So again, we all know my name's Shaf, that mill guy, but I have, again, someone who I've alluded to, more experience, esteemed in the cEDH community, and we're hoping to have a good discussion with. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Logan. I'm head of the channel CriticalEDH. We're not really a cEDH team per se, but a group of 6 of us in the Denver area.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you, Logan, for joining me today. I know we've had a lot of, let's call them fun and also not great kind of back and forths over, I don't know, the last
Twitter.
year, last couple of months, something, I don't know, Matt.
Yeah.
It's some type of timeline.
No hard feelings. It's Twitter, you know, it's like, I kind of want to make my point and then be done with it, you know?
Yeah. I will say, I think like how we've gotten here, I like to think of it similar, like my relationship with the Pioneer format. You know, I had a lot of bad things to say about the Pioneer format. I then tried it, and it serendipitously happened to be at a time when like a deck I really like kind of came out. Ultimately, TLDR is I did end up enjoying the format. It's under supported, and in similar ways, cEDH was a similar thing where I didn't have too much experience with it. And then there's 2 buddies at my shop, you know, shout out Willie and Carm, who proxied up like 10 to 15 cEDH decks and really got like a group of people going. And that's when kind of the evolution of things started, and I truly started to understand the format more. So Logan, I appreciate you kind of coming on and now being that step 2, 3, whatever you want to consider it, of my journey into this format, and hopefully good steps forward for it.
Yeah, I love this format dearly. I play it every weekend and just involved with it every day. It's pretty much my way to engage with Magic for the most part. I don't really mess around with 1v1 or draft or limited or Pioneer, modern. Like, I'm aware that they exist, of course, but it's just not how I engage with Magic.
It's not your thing. And we'll kind of get into a little bit as to how you got here, why it is that, you know, this is your primary form of engagement, and kind of what that means, right? Like, because we have a lot of sentiment about cEDH from not only Commander players, but also 1v1 players that have a lot of these opinions that I think especially could probably just be solved from the fact that I know there's a, you know, we'll get into it later, but a general distinction between at least casual cEDH, if you will, cEDH, where maybe you're playing at the LGS, or maybe TEDH, tournament EDH. And the format in general is one that's really accessible, and from my experience, relatively exciting, and something that actually a lot of, in my experience, Commander players probably do want. They probably are just maybe a little too afraid to maybe try. But before we get too far into it, why don't you kind of talk a little bit about yourself? Like, talk about the kind of group you're with out there in Denver, and why cEDH for yourself.
The cEDH scene here is just like, it's huge. It's multiple events happening every weekend, between 30 and 50 players at each one of those events. It's just a huge blast. Like, we have some of the best players in the world here, and it's very competitive, but it's also very fun. And I think cEDH, you have the flexibility to build and play many different decks where you don't really have that in other formats. And then lots of people love the social aspect of just, you know, shooting the shit with your friends, but also like trying to kill them and stuff like that.
Fair enough. And I guess, like, what led you into not only just like where you're at right now, but what was your I guess Magic journey? Was it the first time you ever started playing Magic, it was cEDH, or did you start from somewhere that kind of led into that, or what kind of brought you here?
Yeah, so in middle school, I was playing in Mirrodin and Kamigawa blocks, and played a lot of draft and stuff like that. My parents would drop me off at the LGS, and I'd draft for FNM.
Yeah.
And then I moved, and then I stopped playing Magic, and like I always kind of had it in the back of my mind. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just return to Magic at some point. I never really did. And then COVID happened, and my wife and I were like just looking for things to do. And
yeah, as many couples did. Yeah. Fair enough.
Sure. Right. But she's like, she's way smarter than me.
Yeah.
She's very analytical. She's an attorney. She just loves these like sorts of puzzles and high level games and stuff like that. We've had a really good history playing board games and whatnot. Yeah. And so I picked up a, it's actually like over here, but you know, like the Magic Game Night set, it's like 5
I think so. Yeah.
Colored decks.
Yes.
We picked up that. It was like on sale at Target or something, and we played, I can't tell you how many hours of that. Just that.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it very quickly went from like, okay, well, we could go play it like an LGS. And we showed up at an LGS, and they're like, oh, we're having Commander night. And I was like, what the hell is Commander?
Ooh.
I've never heard of it. Right. Because my experience was from 15 years ago to this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I started playing Commander, and very quickly I was like, I want to play with powerful cards. And everyone's like, well, we don't really do that. And I'm like,
that's it right there. That's it right there.
Like, yeah, but like I used to play with like Chrome Mox and Mox Opal and stuff back when those cards were like first printed, and then now I'm like, what do you mean it's weird for me to play with those cards? And like, well, it's like kind of too powerful. And like, to me, they're just Magic cards.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And then a little bit of cEDH experience here and there from just random people, and met Jason. He's like the top player in the world right now. He's also on our team. But I met him and started to hang out with a buddy, Eric, and we just started playing more. And then we started building a community. Just like you said, I proxied out a bunch of decks and just started bringing them with me and started inviting people to play cEDH. And like, I didn't know what I was doing, but they didn't know what they were doing either. So kind of had some people like teach me along the way. And then I was like, you know, I was just kind of looking for that competitive outlet. And I didn't really feel like playing 1v1 anymore. I was just having so much fun playing like the social format.
Okay.
And then I started competing and started doing well. And then that's where we're at now.
Before we get into that piece deeper, is your wife still kind of jamming with you at FNM? Is she kind of in a different place with, you know, maybe she's the drafter, you're the cEDH, or like where are you two at with your Magic?
She likes limited a lot more than I do. She plays arena quite a bit because I think that's her way of, she like has more time to do that. We also just have a newborn, so I think she has a little bit more time to like, you know, take care of him and do that kind of stuff. But she does play cEDH, and she's She's pretty good when she has practice, but like, you know, the times that she plays are kind of fewer and far between nowadays. But she consumes a lot of the content and knows what's going on and engages with the community and stuff.
We'll get into specific decks later, but what's her deck of choice?
Right now it's Obnixilis, but she in the past has played Rogsai and Blue Farm and TFT. So
okay.
Yep. We're in my household.
Now, going back to that experience that, you know, you kind of used to build out your cEDH community, mixed in with the fact that you joined a Commander community that maybe wasn't as competitive, or maybe wasn't using higher level cards, maybe for our purposes probably is more so in the bracket 3, potentially bracket 2 realm of things. How was that for you in comparison? Because right now you're someone that primarily plays cEDH. You're not even probably a bracket 4 player, or you're not even delving into bracket 3 or anything like that. What are your thoughts in terms of, you know, regular Commander versus maybe cEDH?
It's strange to me because, like, I think the main thing keeping people from playing cEDH is money, and they don't want to use proxies, which I totally understand, by the way. It also just like adds a layer of complexity and skill and like attention to detail that a lot of players aren't ready for, and that's totally fine too. But also, like, sometimes you want to play dinosaurs and whatever, and like
no, that's but to be fair, there is a way to play dinosaurs in cEDH, but you know, there is a way.
but like, I mean, realistically, if you want to play like a, you know, tier 1 deck, it's not that, right? So I think that having different ways to engage with the format at large, like EDH, is healthy. So I fully support people that want to play casual and stuff like that. Yeah. But I've just seen it so many times where people want to play higher and higher power cards, and then their group goes through this like arms race of blinging out or just putting nicer cards in their deck, and then they get to bracket 4 and then pseudo bracket 5, and then there's like, you know, some saltiness going on at the table because it's like, well, I thought we were here to have fun, and then people are like, well, yeah, but I want to play my powerful cards, and like those cards they cause me to win. So like the game ends, and they're like, okay, well, they're in this kind of weird space where like between bracket 4 and 5, whereas just play bracket 5, like just play cEDH, and then everyone doesn't have to rule 0. You can just sit down at the table, everyone knows what's happening, and then that's it.
Yeah, and I think this, you know, feel free to let me know if I'm wrong, but my take on this has always been that I feel like one of the biggest downsides with Commander being one of the bigger formats in Magic, or being that kind of introductory point for so many people, has been a lot of players have lost the what they would consider cutthroat nature of the game. You know, like when you come into a pre-release, when you come into a game of limited, when you come into a game of 1v1, the goal is always to take your opponent down to 0, right? It's to win, or again, without taking them to 0, present a condition that says win the game for yourself. And so there's never a situation where you're trying to do the thing, if you will. And cEDH is that extreme part of it. Like there's no point where you're trying to do a thing necessarily at all, even maybe at a locals level.
We don't use that term, do the thing, and because our thing is just win the game. And we're all trying to do the thing that is win the game as quickly as possible. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that it becomes too far for a lot of Commander players, where they're like, oh, there's no room for me to have fun. But the definition of what fun is how you get to that win condition, how you kind of get past this puzzle that your opponents are presenting to you in terms of, you know, how many cards are in their hand, their graveyard, what their board is, how we've started, what seed I'm in, whatever it is. And I think that's where that translation, like that's where it gets lost. Like that's where I've learned cEDH is. It's that 1v1 that Commander players have to see again. They're like, oh, like the rule 0 discussion is that we're all going to try and win the game, but now I'm presented with the fact that I can't do the thing. I can't resolve what's that dumb red enchantment where like every time you cast a spell,
Underworld Breach?
Not that one. That one actually wins you the game. I'm thinking of it's like whenever you casted a spell, you have to like put it back into your deck and then reveal cards until you reveal one with the same type. It's like it's just pure chaos. Pardon?
Possibility Storm?
Is it? No, Possibility Storm is for yourself, I think. You know what? I think it's for everyone. I'm trying to remember what it is, but it's like one of those like chaos cards that like once it resolves, the whole table just groans because nothing you cast will ever resolve.
Possibility Storm, 3 red enchantment. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles it, then exiles the top card of his or her library until she exiles a card. Shares a card type with it. That player may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then
yes. Okay, you're right. It is Possibility Storm. That card is an absolute nightmare. It is the epitome of the type of commander that I do not play at all. As someone who plays a lot of bracket 3 and a little bit of bracket 4, is the type of stuff that absolutely drives me up the wall. And that's what I like cEDH for. But in terms of that, like, how do you feel when people have this criticism of, you know, cEDH is too competitive, or I can't do the thing, or, you know, you've said that it's fine for people to play bracket 3, bracket 4. Yeah. But how do you feel about those initial surface level criticisms people have of like, I don't want to try that? Even like you could walk up to them, here's a deck. Like I literally, it's not even proxies. It's my own cards. Please try it. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that.
Okay, first of all, Possibility Storm, you can break the card by playing Drannith Magistrate, and your opponents can't play the game. You can Possibility Storm lock them. So like,
screw that card. Actually, to the moon, screw that card. But yeah, yes, that is a magic card.
I don't know. It's kind of a win condition, right? You play Boros. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I've had this discussion with a lot of new players where they're just like, they've heard air quotes horror stories or bad stories about cEDH, and some are true, but also like some of that comes from pub stompers sitting at a casual table with a high powered deck that it's not cEDH, and they stomp 3 players that are unsuspecting, and that is a bad experience for a lot of people. But I think that most cEDH players wouldn't do that because we're all running more of like hardcore combo decks for the most part.
Yeah, and I think many people are just trying to, like, you're all the stompers, if you will, right? Like, it's all, everyone's on the same playing field. So,
yeah, but if there's 4 of us at the table, then like it's very hard for us to just roll. I mean, it happens occasionally, but not really.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, I think a lot of it comes from the average casual player doesn't really know what cEDH is.
Yeah.
So like, if they say that, oh, I had a bad experience playing cEDH, I always kind of like dig into it a little bit. I'm like, okay, well, what were people playing? And they're like, oh, I was against like a black-green elf ball deck. And I was like,
elf ball?
I haven't seen one of those in cEDH.
Golgari in cEDH? Like, hold on.
Exactly, but you can build at extremely high power. You can build it to bracket 4, and like maybe you can take a couple games off of cEDH players, right? But like, I don't know. I'm just wary of the average person's opinion about our format because I don't like, if you don't play it, like I'm still learning things about our format every day.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn. There's so many different strategies and different things you can do. But as an entrenched player, this is what I play. It's hard to convince people otherwise about some of their opinions sometimes.
Yeah. And I think those are the people that are always going to be hard to move over. It's all over Magic, right? Like it's hard to take limited players and put them, you know, have them be constructed players. It's hard to kind of flip the other way around, and even kind of between formats and stuff, it can be hard. So I definitely understand that sentiment. I guess like kind of moving on from general thoughts here, I think this is a good transition point to talk about kind of where the differences lie between, you know, local level, you know, at the LGS commander in cEDH versus maybe something that is at a tournament level, because I think that's like that big jump. I think a lot of people, they see cEDH as like, oh, this is where you go to like play for money. You know, this is where you go to a tournament and this is it exclusively. And then that's very scary. But what is that to you? What is the difference to you? And why is it that there is a difference between, you know, why do you consider that difference to even be a thing?
It's kind of hard, right? For me, I don't see a lot of difference between just playing cEDH with friends and then playing in a tournament.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to consider the tournament rule structure. You have to consider you have random opponents and what deck you might want to bring to face the meta of what you're presuming might be popular at the tournament. Those are all things that I think about when I'm going to a tournament. But when I'm playing or practicing CEDH with other friends and stuff, I might be like less serious about it, but I'm still playing the same decks.
Yeah.
And for me, the format is when you're not playing in a tournament, you're kind of practicing for a tournament.
Right.
Because it's the same thing. And I don't really agree with the distinction between C and TEDH. I don't think TEDH is a real thing. Obviously tournaments are real, right?
Yeah.
But like the whole point of playing a competitive format is to play in tournaments.
Yeah.
So what are we even talking about? Like there's no T modern, there's no T legacy or T vintage.
See, I completely agree, and you took my next point, so keep going. Yes, I completely agree. Yes.
What are we going to talk like? The joke that we have is T kitchen table magic. Like,
Yo, wait. How do I turn that into a title? Yes.
I just like it further splinters the format, and I think the whole point of us saying it's competitive is that we're either competing to win or competing in a tournament. So.
Okay. Yeah. And I, as I mentioned, completely agree. Where even if like there does feel like there might be a distinction, it's very superficial. Very similarly in comparison, you know, when you draft at the LGS, or when you draft it pre-release, it's very similar, right? Like you're playing sealed. The format is the same. You know, we can still have the same discussions. We can still be the same cordial people when we're playing 1v1 formats. There's no T modern versus regular modern. You know, the modern you play at the LGS with your tier 3 deck is the same that you would play at a tournament because that's the deck you have. So I appreciate bringing that comparison up because I think that's where a lot of people get that mix up. And I guess like to further that, why is it that, you know, in your mind, just kind of lay it out for people, why is it that cEDH can have a tournament format and other brackets can't? Why is cEDH distinct? Like, why is it that I can't play bracket 3 for money, but cEDH in a vacuum just makes more sense for, you know, playing at a tournament level?
I think the rules of bracket 3, what constitutes a bracket 3 deck, are not defined well enough to make it competitive.
Yeah.
Because in the past, we've seen bracket 3 tournaments happen, and we've seen cEDH players bring their cEDH deck, remove the game changers. I think someone played Rogthras and just completely rolled the tournament.
Yeah.
Because they just removed all the game changers, followed exactly what bracket 3 says. And then you have a bunch of unsuspecting players that are like, oh, my bracket 3 deck is, you know, showing up at a tournament.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like you're just not ready for it. It doesn't matter. You can remove the cards from our hands, right? But we'll replace them with less than ideal cards that are essentially do the same thing, like a lower power level. But we've practiced and played in tournament settings. We know what it's like to be competitive, and it's just not. It's not healthy. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the chasm of bracket 3 is so large where I have bracket 3 decks with, you know, and like the mentality of this might be bad, but I have bracket 3 decks with fetches and duels. Like that's just, you can tell me this is a bracket 4 deck. It's really not. Like I just went to the library and the proxies I printed are all going to be the same. I just proxy the same 4 pages over and over again for certain decks with mana bases. Like I'm not putting out different proxies for it, right? So it was like a logistical thing for me. But when it comes to, I guess that fear of that difference, right? So now, you know, oh, I can't play bracket 3 at all at a tournament level. I just want to be casual. I just want to do the thing. I don't want to try cEDH. Like, I don't want to do that. Like those type of people, you can't change them. But what about the people that are, maybe they're okay with taking the jump. Maybe they just need the accessibility. And so Logan, you're the type of person that has proxied up different decks for people, and let's say for example that other 50th caveat that we can bring in, like these aren't people that are worried about proxies, because some people are like that. You give them the deck. What are maybe some things that you would tell these people in saying, hey, join us for a cEDH pod, we're 3 people, we need a 4th, we'll walk you through it. What are some things that you would tell these people, or how would you help them to walk them through their very first game of cEDH?
So I'm going to answer that 100%, but I disagree a little bit that you can't convince that person to try cEDH.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
For me, when I was in like teaching mode and community building mode, which I'm not right now, I'm more focused on content creation and attending tournaments, managing the team and stuff like that. But when I was spending more time at the LGS and bringing my giant bag of cEDH decks around with me, I literally had a duffel bag, and I probably had about 20 decks that were proxied out.
Sure.
But my favorite type of person was one where we had we had a 4-pod going already of cEDH, and someone would come over, like, "What are you guys playing?" And they're like, "Oh, we're playing cEDH." And they go, "Oh, yeah, I don't have anything like that." And then just like walk away and be like, "Hey, wait, no, come back. Like, you should watch. Like, watch us have fun."
Yeah.
And then they start asking questions because they're sitting there watching. They're going like, "Oh, you guys are like politicking over a spell, or like you're like laughing and having fun and stuff." But like, I don't really understand what's going on because the nomenclature and the terms we use and stuff are just so different sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we have to like manage passing priority, and sometimes we have a giant counterspell war, which doesn't really happen in casual. And they're like, "Whoa, that's crazy." And I was like, "Yeah, that's that stack of 10 cards that is, the stack is 10 cards deep. I've seen stacks that encompass the whole table and they zigzag back and forth."
Yeah.
Right.
But even
So
then, like
I was like, you haven't even seen anything.
But even then, in my experience from playing, I feel like even that can be like an extreme, right? Like there are a lot of games that you play where the stack isn't too complicated. It's a back and forth, and you have these conversations, because you're right. I'm happy you brought up that there is still politicking. There is still ways where even if you're trying to do the optimal thing, what you're ultimately trying to do in politicking in a regular game of Commander is try to create some type of favorable outcome for yourself. Maybe someone is trying to swing out at you and you say, "Hey, you give me one more turn." Maybe that's not the type of politicking that happens in cEDH, but you might be able to do something like, "Hey, don't destroy my thing. I will do this instead." And there are plenty of situations like that. I will kind of go into a specific example with something like, me as a Magda player. There are plenty of examples where people will say, "Hey, I need to destroy that Magda," and I'll say, "Hey, how about you don't do that? And maybe my first activation of Magda grabs this, which helps you." And so can I create a favorable situation where I have this optimal toolbox of things that can maybe still forward my game plan, but can still keep my pieces alive in some type of hidden way? And so that's a small example of maybe politicking that happens in cEDH versus EDH, where I'm never going to convince someone to not take me out. The whole point of the game is to take me out, right? It's how do I kind of leverage around that? And I don't know what your experience is, but even with that example of like, "Hey, come watch me," I found that there have been situations where in our cEDH pods at my LGS, where people have come watched us and they're like, "Oh, I don't have a cEDH deck." And we'll tell them, "Well, we have a box of 15. What do you want to play?" And like, "Oh, I'm like, I'm a dinosaur player." Like, "Oh, do I have a red-green dinosaur for you?" So I feel like there is, generally speaking, a deck for everyone in some way, like the artifact player, the blue counterspell player, the combo player, the go wide big mana player. Like, you can give them Gaia's Cradle in the command zone now, so
what other format has that diversity of decks that are viable?
And all that are actually legitimately viable, right? Like, all of them will win games because they are optimized to the top. And I think that's the big surprising thing for people. I'm want you to speak on that if you have this experience, but I feel like there is a cEDH deck for everyone. There is a cEDH deck roughly of almost every archetype, maybe just at like an overarching level. There may not be a spores typal deck, right. But there's like a go wide deck. There's a typal strategy. There is a green deck. There's a blue deck. There's a black deck. What's your experience with that? Do you feel like there is a deck that maybe encompasses all Commander players?
Like a single deck?
Not a single, sorry. Like maybe the different archetypes of Commander players can come into cEDH and find a home in a deck. Like they have something similar.
I think for the average player, if you gave cEDH a fair shot and you did research and you started watching it and say like, "You know what, I want to learn the format."
Yeah.
Start watching some YouTube videos, watch some play to win and whatever.
Yeah.
But I think for most people, they will find something that they can attach themselves to that they like. And not to say that you need to like force yourself to do that, but I think without a lot of effort, like you'll identify something like, "Oh, that's cool," and like I want to do that, and then all of a sudden you're the player that does that thing. Like we have a local player that he loves playing Arkham Dagson, and he's incredible. He's probably ranked 17 in the world playing that deck. and now he's playing Urza, and like he kills on Urza, and he's been like top 4ing our locals and big tournaments as well. So like, if you want to be that guy, there's room for you to be that guy. And that's what we love about it.
And I think that's another part of cEDH that I think is very actually like great for the regular commander player. I think a lot of commander players, a lot of Magic players in general identify themselves with an archetype or a style of play, even in 1v1. Like I'm the graveyard player, I'm the aggro player, whatever it is, right? They buy into a deck. And that's the type of thing that they've
your channel's called That Mill Guy.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you know, I wish Magno was a mill deck, but I also low key for those that have been watching me for a while, I'm an affinity fiend. Anything to do with an artifact, I will always jam that. Shout out to any deck playing Mox Opal.
There's a new deck, like Sammy, that people are playing. Like it's white red, and it has.
That's the 7 mana. Is that the 7 mana commander from Edge?
I don't think it's 7. Hold on. Let me pull it up.
It's like all your spells have affinity. Is it that one?
Yeah, it's that one. Is it 7? No, it's 6.
Is it 6? 4 in 4 in Boros. Yes.
Here, I'll share real quick. That way people know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, cEDH staple, Sammy Wildcat Captain.
Yes.
But I mean, hey, people are playing this, and like, in my opinion, it's not top tier.
Yes.
But it's winning games occasionally.
Yeah. Like Boros does have like a really, like Boros isn't just Winota. Like Boros has Zerda, which is like kind of like, it's kind of like a Kinnan, but like worse. But
there are at least 2 top Zerda players that are in like top 100.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm gonna have to look into a Sammy list. I'll force it. I'm a Lumra enjoyer, which is literally worse Wandering Minstrel. But you know, I'm a Lumra enjoyer, so I'll force Sammy. But regardless, I think there is a deck for everyone, and there is a deck that you can identify with. There are examples of strategies that are maybe not the most top tier in cEDH, but similar to other formats in 1v1. You have tier 2 decks, you have tier 3 decks. They are just the optimal versions of those, where I've alluded to my personal favorite example again is Lumra, where Lumra is a tier 2 cEDH deck in many people's eyes, but it has a fantastic following. I'm in the Discord myself, and those people are always obsessed with that damn bear. And it, in my opinion, from what other people have also mirrored, it's a worse version of Wandering Minstrel. And wait, so
you're in the Lumra Discord. You know, Nickety Knack or Eric?
I do not.
Okay, he's like the original Cocaine Bear brewer. Like, and he's part of our team.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, look at this like Avengers group that you've managed to assemble, Logan. God damn.
Okay. Denver too, which is crazy. We're all like within 10 minutes of each other. So.
Yeah. Okay. So in that realm of, there's so many people like around there that are not only just cEDH players, but also could be cEDH players, right? Like the so many people around you can be this big wealth of knowledge. I mean, okay, clearly the cEDH mecca is Denver, I guess. Clearly. I
think there's like hubs around the US, and Denver's one of them, but like Ohio strangely is another one. LA is another one.
Okay.
There's these big like pockets, but Denver's definitely a big one. Yeah.
I would always assume like the bigger cities maybe, but yeah, I'm Denver and Ohio. Shout out. Okay. Yeah. So I guess maybe let's use all of this to transition and say, you know, generally speaking, I think we can all agree that cEDH is accessible in terms of there are decks that you can identify with. It has similar play patterns, at least to regular Commander. It may be even shrunk down. And I think all of these are things that we generally understand. People that care to understand it know that. And cEDH players, generally speaking, please let me know, are pretty cool people. I've never had a negative experience with a cEDH player that I played with at all. Like,
most of us are pretty chill. Like, yeah, I think there's some of us that are a little aggro or more so than I would like, but like, for the most part, we're chill. Like, we just want to be left alone, and we want to play cEDH, and for the most part, like, if you see us posting about it on Twitter or whatever, and then, you know, some 60 card grinder's like, oh, this format's broken, and you know, And we're like, dude, leave us alone. Like,
Yeah.
we're having a good time. Like we got our problems, and like I'm sure we'll talk about them, but not to say that we're not trying to fix our format's problems and stuff, but it's we love it for the good and the bad, and we want it to be accessible. We want people to join and play because it's fun. And the other thing is, I think I mentioned it briefly, but proxies, like we're totally proxy friendly. Any major cEDH event worth its salt is going to be 100% proxy friendly. And we just want people to play. We don't want to play against your wallet. We want to play against your deck. And if you have to play with proxies, that's fine. There's tons of my decks that have proxies in them. Like my blue farm is now 100% complete, which is excellent. I love it. But if it weren't, I really wouldn't love it that much less. And I have a Kinnan deck that's like 2 cards off from being real. I'm missing a Transmute Artifact and a Mox Diamond. Then I also have a deck that I just put together that is, I don't know, like 97 proxies. I think I have like 1 real card because I couldn't find a proxy of it. So who cares?
My whole shtick is like, so 2 things. My whole shtick is like, I have to have the commander. So I'll always like, if I build a new deck, even if the other 99 or 98,
like expensive though.
They're really not. The commanders generally aren't. So I will try and get that. And my second thing is I very much am pro proxy to an extreme. Like when people tell me, like I'm the type of person where like, if someone sits across from me and tells me like, I don't want a proxy, I don't want to play that, like I will challenge them right on the spot. I'm like, I think there's a fundamental like misunderstanding here. As a 1v1 player, as someone who also is constantly buying decks or upgrading strategies to play this stuff, like when I'm playing Commander, 99% of the cards I have in Commander are completely proxied. I refuse to buy cards for this format if I don't need to, because I spend too much money on the rest of Magic. So the fact that I even have a fully built out cEDH deck is like enough of a thing for me. And so I really challenge people to like, you know, play Commander, play cEDH in the most accessible way that you can. I think it's only your personal barriers holding you back. And in many ways, I think maybe I haven't done a good job of leading us and highlighting this. But again, cEDH is very accessible. As you mentioned, Logan, it is very proxy friendly. Any tournament or organization or just event worth their salt is going to allow proxies.
And I can't speak to other LGSs like cEDH nights, but I know for ours, if you want to come to level 7 and play at one of the cEDH nights on Friday or Saturday, and you're like, oh man, I don't have a deck, just show up. Like, you'll be fine.
People do. I find like cEDH is very much like, in my experience, one of the best 1v1 formats, Pauper. Every time I go to a Pauper event, like people have like 3-4 decks. Like you can sit down. The format's so cheap. Someone's got a deck. Someone's got something to play with.
Well, most importantly, they want you to play.
They want you to sit down and play it. Like that's the thing with these kind of community-driven formats. People want you to play. I've seen this with honestly all of Eternal Magic. Every single Eternal Magic format, Commander, Legacy, Vintage. Like we are so under-supported. Right? Okay, forget General Commander. That's the most supported format. But we are so under cared for and underserved. We just want you to play. Because Wizards clearly doesn't care enough to, for whatever reason. But let's use that point to, I guess, address some of the elephants in the room. I think we've done enough to introduce ourselves and talk a little bit about accessibility. And I think we've alluded to some of the, or at least the surface level issues that people have with cEDH. Now, you know, kind of time stamping this, the big portion of the rest of this video I want to use to be my original goal. So Logan, what drove this conversation, I think in many ways, was a question that I had off of Distraction Maker's video, where I could not find a singular place or a singular resource where I could find not only the proposed solutions to what people had for problems with cEDH, but also the counterpoints for them. Because I think Magic is such a diverse and interesting game. There are over 30 years of mechanics and design behind it that I refuse to believe there isn't some type of near solution or almost perfect solution to any problem. Or at least there isn't a better state. I think there is that for many formats out there. And I think cEDH is one of these formats where I feel like there is a better state for this format. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's my personal subjective feeling. And so I want to use this video and this section of the video to create that stepping off point of where, you know, I have this problem with the format. Here's how we solve it. I have this problem with the format. Here's how we are trying to solve it. TBD, something like that. And so I personally have 3 to 4 big points that I feel like are constant talking points. And Logan, what I want to do with you is go through some of those criticisms and where we're at in the community right now. Like, have we found a counter solution? Have we found a solution? Where are we at? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, like, with the distraction makers thing, I like those guys a ton. First of all, I watch their content all the time, which is why I saw that video and I was like, come on, guys. Like, I think there's a better
That's why I never commented that Discord. When I saw that video, I was like, oh, God damn it.
But I just think that, like, the problem is that a lot of criticisms about cEDH are valid. And that you didn't really see me pushing back on the criticisms exactly, but I was more pushing back on, like, I just don't think it's healthy for us as cEDH players when we have the rest of Magic just like shit talking us.
Yeah.
And we have a ton of problems, but we've tried to address them and we are continuing to try to address them. But also, like, to your point, there isn't that one sort of like resource, because a lot of these are ongoing discussions that we have in big Discords, or we talk about them on our podcast, or other people talk about them on their podcast. But, like, we're one of the larger cEDH podcasts, and our videos regularly get like 3,000 views, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
And Play to Win is more of a cEDH appeal to the masses. And that's totally great. They have a big following, big audience. But to be honest, most of their audience is casual.
Yeah.
And they will talk about issues that cEDH has, but kind of just like gloss over them and keep going about it. They're not pushing the format forward. And this is not a knock against them. Love those guys like a ton. But their job is not to push the format forward and like make changes to what the format is. Their job is to represent the format in the way it is and kind of like give it like a good perspective on it and show how they're having fun with it, make content and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I also recognize that this video on my channel probably won't get that upper level of viewership. It'll probably be a similar thing, but I also want it to be a point to which I can point to myself, and at least maybe other people can maybe point to, as this is where we were at this time in 2026. This is where we were, and we may not have found a solution, but it was like TBD at this point because of X and Y reasons. And I think like that's important. And similar to how, you know, you were kind of mentioning Play to Win, and like I see even like spike feeders in the type of content that they're doing that's primarily just gameplay, but also other commander stuff. Like that is a more casual focused audience that may not be involved in larger discussions. How do we have this in a singular place that can maybe be jumped off from? That's my goal. I don't want people to have to go to multiple places, even though they can.
I don't know how to put this in the words, but like, I don't think it needs to be, because most of the conversation in cEDH is happening like internally, and between parties that care. So like between tournament organizers, like the large ones, we're trying to test out new systems to address like some of the seed order win rate issues and stuff like that. But these are things that are happening at the TO level and in conversations between like organizers and stuff like that. So like we can have them on channels and whatnot, but like it's not for the masses necessarily. Like, you'll hear about it when it starts like happening and whatnot. But there's a lot of private testing that happens, because there's no point in talking about something if it's like not worth, if it's not like, I don't know, worth doing, I guess. It's hard to explain, but there's also like not a whole lot of reason for us to talk about it out like publicly, because it doesn't, first of all, it doesn't get views. It doesn't get like, no one wants to hear about us fixing the problems. They want to hear about the problems and people complaining about it. And that's completely fair. That rage culture is very much something that I think Pleasant Kenobi and I are really good at doing on our channels. But I mean, it's the internet, right? Like,
it's the internet. And I think like so you are right to definitely a high degree. I think like the solutions themselves are for other bodies and they're already being tested. Where where I would push back on is, I think, like, especially in comparison with 1v1 formats, I think there's like a real lack of attempt from the community to provide in all of Magic, not just CEDH, in all of Magic, to provide or reasonably think about any form of solution, which is my biggest frustration with not even just CEDH, but just ban discussions, format discussions, anything. Like, people will always say this card is broken, the format is stale, this is that, but they don't know enough or play enough to even understand what a solution or better state could be. They just want to complain, which is why you're right, people just want to complain, but also there's like also nobody talking about any type of solution, not just for CEDH, but anything else. Like, every time someone complains about standard, I don't see enough of a discussion about like what is actually a true fix for standard. It's just like, we need to ban VV. That's not like, we didn't solve standard. Standard was still just as bad, right? Like, we need to do this in Pauper. Pauper is still just as bad for all of its problems that we have. Pauper is a great format, but it has many problems. Modern has many problems. Like, every single format of Magic has many problems. It's just that the people that bring about the issues don't seem to have a solution. And I think that's where my problem is.
I understand that, but from a CEDH perspective, the problem is that I don't even relate our format to 1v1 formats.
Sure.
I like almost want to detach it entirely, because a lot of the solutions that can be applied to 1v1 formats can't really be applied to us.
Sure.
Because we have 2 more players, we have multiplayer rules addendums, we have like, if you were just to ban a card, it would potentially tilt the format in a way that like is very, very hard to understand.
Yeah.
As we saw with bannings from, Dockside and all that stuff, that has completely changed and upended our format, where it hasn't really changed casual Commander that much. So we just have like, we're playing Magic. There's no question about it. We are playing Magic, but you might as well be like, just divorce us from 1v1 formats, because there's just too much different.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to understand some of the ramifications of the changes being made. And if you're not playing the format, or playing in tournaments and try like understanding the tournament structure, excuse me. It's very hard to understand what people like make the argument, draws should be worth 0 points.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, yeah, there's like problems with that. And it particularly stems from, now you're incentivized to king make the person with the highest opponent win percentage, because that's now your breaker instead of a draw being a breaker.
Right.
But like, the average person doesn't understand what that means.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is not a slight to the average person. I'm just saying that there are obstacles to making changes sometimes where just people don't understand it.
Hold on. I will slight the average Magic player. Y'all need to think. Anyway, that's me, not you, Logan. That's me.
Yeah.
I will slight the average Magic player that I come across on a regular basis. Some of y'all have crazy opinions. But no, that's me. That's me, not Logan. But I think fair. There are larger forces that are trying to solve the issues at hand, or constantly trying to make fixes that are more enfranchised in the situation itself. So let's highlight that. Let's reframe that and maybe highlight what is going on in that sense. So you've already alluded to some of them. So let's start with somewhere. One of the biggest criticisms that exist for the CEDH community, CEDH format, whether casually or not, is the fact that there is a play order discrepancy. So in a 1v1 format, many people at this point can understand that with any single TCG, there is a play discrepancy. The first player in many TCGs, if not all, in my experience, I have played 5 to 6 TCGs at this point. Very much. And every single one of them have a first player discrepancy. The first player will always win more. That is just true across all TCGs.
Sure.
And every single TCG has attempted to try and solve this, from Hearthstone to, I don't know, Uno, right? Like, the person going first will win more. And so CEDH is exacerbated even more from in my experience, subjectively from a data perspective. The narrative has been first player will win extremely more than the fourth player, and it'll just kind of go up from there. They'll win a little bit more than the second player a little bit more than third a little bit more than the fourth. Since that is an exacerbated, I guess maybe from a perception thing of 1v1 where first player wins more than the second, what is your experience with that data? Like, what is your reaction to that? And then B, what are some of the proposed solutions to that?
Okay, I'm going to caution you again. I don't think we should compare it to 1v1 because
fair enough.
The problem starts with the fact that we're a best of one format.
Yes.
So cEDH, we don't play best of 3. We don't play best of 4 or 5 or whatever. Whereas in 1v1, even in limited, you're probably playing best of 3 against your opponent.
Correct.
So you would go, let's say you go first, then your opponent goes first, then you go first again, or I don't know how that's handled exactly, but typically it's back and forth as to who goes first, right? So we don't have the opportunity to do that. What we do have the opportunity to do is over the course of a tournament, your seat order distribution as a player should relatively be even between seats 1 through 4 in Swiss.
Okay.
And then in your seeded rounds in top 16 or in top 4, that's based on your standing.
Yeah.
Your place. So just starting off on the, well, yes, we have a seat order win rate issue potentially.
Before going too far into that, do you mind elaborating just on that initial thing you said? Like when you say your seat order is probably going to even out, do you mean just from the fact of random chance, just an even distribution of you will have an equally likely chance of being in first or in fourth, or the fact that your standing changes that before top 16? What do you
doesn't determine that? Your seat order is weighted and is determined by the software in Swiss. So let's say you go to a 100-player tournament. There's 5 rounds of Swiss, which are just like your rounds where you gain points. So if you win, you get 5 points. If you draw, you get 1 point, and if you lose, you get 0 points.
Sure.
So in those 5 rounds, let's say you go 4-2, 3-1, 3 as your seat order. That's a relatively even distribution of where you were sitting throughout the pod. And so, like, while you might have a worse chance to win from seat 4 or seat 3, you also have 2 games where you were in seat 1 and 2. So that means that you should probably be winning those games.
Yeah, statistically,
obviously things happen, right? Like you can't always win the games in seats 1 and 2, and you don't always lose the games in seats 3 and 4. What most people have an issue with is the disparity between fourth seat and every other seat, because the way that the game works is that you have 3 people taking turns before you in seat 4. And that's very, very hard. I mean, it just happened to me last week where I was in a tournament against Jason, but I was in fourth seat. He was in second seat. First player plays their stuff. He plays stuff. I play land and pass. And then on his turn 2, he goes Hellbent and plays Cannon Basalt with a Basalt outlet. And my counterspell is not yet online because I didn't get a turn 2.
Yeah.
So I had a Fierce Guardianship, and I was going to cast Thrasios, my commander, which means it was free.
Yeah.
But I didn't even get a turn 2. So in fourth seat, I lose.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things at the table that could have affected that, where first seat could have kept some sort of interaction.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't let them gaslight you. That's everyone else's fault.
Correct. I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, there's other aspects to this, right? Where, you know, the game could have played or transpired differently. But knowing what was happening in that tournament, I had already won rounds 1 and 2. So me losing from fourth seat in that case wasn't the worst thing.
Right.
But to flip it on its head, in tournaments where I've won from seat 3 and 4, I've actually done much better at those tournaments because I think as a player, it's very important that you either win or draw games when you're in seats 3 and 4. So I play almost more greedy, more like, I'm just going to put a win in the stack like as soon as possible. I don't care what other people are playing. I'm going to jam. And like, if I get there, I get there, but like, I'm supposed to lose anyway. So like, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
So partially, I think it's a player mentality thing. There really feels bad situations where if by chance you get stuck in like the lower seats sometimes because the tournament software isn't perfect. So like I think that the tournament software itself could potentially be looked at and addressed. I know they've already done this a few times.
Sure.
But I've heard stories of players being like, well, I was four seat 3 times over a 7-round tournament. Okay. And that feels pretty high.
Yeah. So. Okay. That's fair. And to, I guess, further address some of this, what are, with all those discrepancies in mind and assuming that some average is made, but still there are, being in 4th seat still feels bad, right?
Sure.
What are, outside of gameplay, because I think this is actually a big, from anecdotally what I've heard, can be addressed maybe through even some bans and unbans or whatever it might be. What are some gameplay logistical changes that people have proposed and or have tried in your experience that may try and address the 4th player, 3rd player discrepancy in win rate?
That's tough because from a gameplay perspective, we are playing EDH. We're not playing cEDH. I know that sounds weird, but we're playing the same format as everybody else. So right now we are restricted to what the format is offering us. We are playing Commander. So we can't change outside of testing. We can't change things of like first player doesn't draw and stuff like that. Yeah. In any of these large tournaments, we're playing with the EDH rule set. So unfortunately, right now we are restricted to that. But I also think that's a good thing because honestly, we want to be part of the format at large. We don't want to be divorced from that. We want our player base to be, let's go from bracket 3 to bracket 4. And then like now we want to play bracket 5 and we don't have to worry about rule set changes. Yeah. It's like once you hit bracket 5, well, now player 1 doesn't draw and player 4 gets to scry 2 and like they make a gold token and like all this stuff changes. Like we don't want that because we don't want, not to say that it wouldn't fix some things, but like honestly, we just want to be part of EDH. Yeah.
And maybe just as a soft tangent, I don't want to go too far into this, but what are your thoughts on some people saying, maybe having an opposite opinion of, you're saying we don't want to be different from EDH, but some people are saying maybe we should. I definitely think that's a very small part of the community, but it's one that comes up. How do you feel with that?
In my experience, that's usually like the saltier part of casual, where they're like, oh, well, cEDH people are just a bunch of pub stompers and they just like don't really understand that. But I think most of cEDH players, while there are some benefits of being separate, like we have more control and whatnot, I am worried that like our player base would start shrinking and continuing to shrink and we wouldn't really uptake new players. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the main issue.
And I think that's, I'm happy you nailed it, in my opinion. Just being separate from Commander does not serve cEDH, I don't think. I think it, like, keeping that bridge and that line open and having it just be a bracket within the system of what EDH is important for accessibility. And at least...
And then you have players like me, too, that would just say, like, okay, well, if you're going to split the format, I'm just going to keep playing competitive Commander.
Yes.
So like, why would I go follow whatever else is happening when I can continue to do what I'm doing right now, which is playing competitive Commander?
Yeah. So in kind of going back to that 4th seat piece, is this something that from a gameplay structure and I guess, no, it would just be gameplay structure perspective. Is this something that is just a result of the format? Like, is there a solution, or is this something we just have to accept from just how Commander is built?
I don't think.
Or are we giving gold tokens to the 2nd player and 3rd player?
I don't think those answers are like mutually exclusive.
Sure.
I don't think we have to accept it necessarily.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know. It is a result of the way that the format is structured. And that's to some extent fine. I think it's fine, especially if the software is good enough to give you a relatively even seat distribution across your rounds in a tournament. If you're playing cEDH casually, like none of this matters, right? Because you're going to roll for turn order and then you're going to play your game. And if you roll poorly many times, yes, being in 4 seats sucks over and over again, I'm sure. But like, okay. It's like you're playing casual CEDH. Like,
well, one thing that I think people forget, even in Commander, assuming all odds are equal, you will win only 25% of the time in the same pod over and over again. You will never win the majority of the time. That is not how statistics works at all. You will win the minority of the time. And so when you take that to an even extreme, it should be fine. It should be okay over a distribution of something. Like in my experience, if I sit down for cEDH at locals, I can get like 10 plus games in a 3-hour window. Like I really can, right? Like it's, especially if you're playing casually, like not at a tournament level, like you can just go through games. Like over that amount of time, you can play a bunch of games. You get a good distribution. You will start at first. You will be second and have the gemstone caverns into a mox. Like you'll be able to accelerate out everything. You'll have those turns, and you have the non-turns, like you mentioned, where you just play a land and you're behind. You aren't able to establish the interaction that you have. That happens. I think an even distribution of games happens. And I think maybe you can agree, maybe you disagree, but I think humans are very good at remembering the worst outcomes, the bad outcomes, and maybe not so good at remembering the good times, if you will.
And I do want to talk a little bit, not to dodge the solutions question and all, but we've tried all different kinds of things, from various numbers of scrying to giving a gold token and stuff like that. But personally, the way I feel about those things is that those are game mechanics being applied to fix a almost like a game system issue.
Yes.
Where I don't really think that's appropriate, because there are ways that you can break those mechanics. Like let's say you scry and you're like, oh, that's my Thassa's Oracle. I'm going to scry my Thassa's Oracle to the bottom. I kept Demonic Consultation in my hand.
Yeah.
I'm going to name Thassa's Oracle with Demonic Consultation.
Yeah.
But, like there's just so many different things that you can break that. It's like, okay, well, why are we introducing a free game mechanic when the player's not actually playing a card?
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem. The other solution that we've talked about is that I think it's potentially a card pool issue.
Yeah.
Because we already see cards like this. You mentioned Gemstone Caverns. That's a very interesting catch-up mechanic that unfortunately applies evenly to seats 2 through 4. So Gemstone is actually most powerful in seat 2 because you get to go ahead of 2 other players. You have a Gemstone. You can,
which is why I specifically mentioned player 2 having Gemstone. But yes, I'm happy you caught on that.
But like we're on the same page with that, right? It's good because you have now an advantage over seat 1. At the expense of a card in your hand, of course, but also like, I mean, it like that mechanic is very interesting. I think a really good example of this actually is Carpet of Flowers, because that card is incredible in seats 3 and 4, given that your opponents play islands. But like, if the card were slightly better, I would like to see more of that type of mechanic, where if you play Carpet of Flowers and turn 1 seat 1, it literally does nothing. It has no chance to do anything. Until the next rotation around. Now, so this is interesting. So I want to use this point to maybe in a second transition over to the final talking point about the seat order thing that I have. But touching on this, I think is great. Would you like to? I'm going to make up a card. Would you like to see more examples of cards that say, if you are not going first or not going second? And I say this specifically because we already have lands that refer to your turn order, where we have the Final Fantasy multicolor land that says it comes in untapped if it's within your first 3 turns. Starting town. So we already have cards that, alongside other cards that we mentioned, reference things that are outside the inside of the game, right? Do you want to see a card that maybe says, I come in untapped, or I give you a mana if you're 3rd or 4th? Is that the type of solution that you think makes sense? Or is that what you're alluding to? Or am I kind of taking that too far? I'm not too much of a game designer myself. So just identifying like play patterns of existing cards, like, I could see things like that where I don't know if that gets too into the weeds of like identifying the format itself with Commander, because I think largely,
I mean, hey, just I will say we already have dual lands that are unfetchable that care about the number of players at the table. So
that is cool.
We already have that. But
I mean, like you're talking like the bond lands.
Yeah, exactly.
And
The
then
bond lands. Yeah.
The new lands that are like, if there are 8 or more other lands at the table.
Yeah, it counts everyone's. Yes, the wording counts like everyone. Yeah.
Like, that's kind of cool too. But I think that Wizards recognizes that there is an issue at hand. I don't think it's a high priority issue for them.
Yeah.
But also in a game design space, it is interesting.
Yeah.
So like it's a puzzle for them to solve, but I think it's going to be solved slowly.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be like, oh, we fixed it. Like, here's all the solutions. Like, by the way, we fixed everything. Like,
stop. We did. I said it in the title and thumbnail. We did fix it. Sorry, we did fix it. Oh,
sure.
Yeah. So jumping off that, the last talking point about the fourth seat order, I've heard, and you've softly alluded to it, but let's get into it, where bans of certain cards may have changed the format in so many ways, in such a way where certain catch-up mechanics, certain power plays, certain explosive plays are now no longer here and have changed the way people and the metagame has gone now, in terms of the ideas of like turbo and everything. And I think that's an idea we'll expand on in a second. But do you feel like there are bans or unbans, either way, that can serve to help the fourth player problem? Because that's an opinion I see actively. And I'm not trying to get you to agree or disagree on like whether or not we need to unban Dockside, but like
very quickly, if we're talking about Dockside as a potential catch-up mechanic, I think that's hilarious. Like,
that is something that people have said to me. I don't have enough experience or enough time in the format to, like, I have not played CEDH during the time of Dockside. I very much played post. I played a lot of it. I don't have a solid opinion on it.
I miss Dockside Crypt JLo dearly.
Yes,
but that said, it is hard to ignore how healthy our format is from a variety perspective right now.
Sure.
Because every deck at the time was about copying Dockside or playing Dockside, or Displacer Kitten, bounce Dockside, make more treasures, cast more things, and then but also like we have different problems now where copying Ristic is potentially the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's hard to say, but just to say that like Dockside is like the catch-up mechanic, in a vacuum it's printed that way, right?
Yeah.
Because if your opponents in seats 1 and 2 and 3 jam a bunch of rocks and stuff and you're like, oh, I have land pedal Dockside, okay, like maybe you can explode out of the gate, but like I don't think that's like a good play pattern. I don't think
For sure. And again, I'm not trying to get you to agree or disagree. Like we're like the criticism, the critical point that I'm trying to get across is people have said that if we can't change the game, we can potentially ban or unban cards to fix the fourth player problem because cards like Dockside Extortion is a catch-up mechanic. I have had that sentence said to me. And so is that what I'm trying to get at is that valid criticism? Do you think it's a ban list thing? Do you think it's cards that are too powerful now that need to enter it? That is the general feel. Do you feel like adjusting the ban list is a solution to this?
I don't think so, no.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. In that case, I think where we will rest fourth player disparity is the fact that it is a gameplay structure issue. And it may not be something that we necessarily have a solution with that otherwise changes the way Commander works in general. And it's something that we have to be okay with, or am I missing something?
So as an enfranchised player, the way I see it, and not to say that fourth seat shouldn't have a higher win rate, because I think it should. I don't know what that looks like or what fixes that currently, but if we can go under the assumption that fourth seat will have a lower win rate because of the structure of the game and the way the game plays out, if you see an even distribution of seats across your Swiss games, then it shouldn't matter whether you go fourth seat or not, because then basically when you hit top cut, if you make it to top cut, that's based on standing. So if you are a low standing, then you might be in third or fourth seat.
Sure.
Okay, well that could be because you didn't perform that well in your Swiss games.
Right.
That's a consequence of your seeded games, right? So you know, like for me, sometimes I go into top 4. I'm like, oh, I knew I'm going to be 4th seed because like I could have squeaked out an extra point instead of losing a game. I could have maybe drawn a game,
right?
And then that would have placed me higher.
Right.
That's like a consequence thing, and like that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think the main issue is like if people are seeing repeated 4th seed or 3rd seed, and they're not seeing those higher seats in Swiss, like that really becomes an issue.
Okay, fair enough. Using that as a jumping off point, I have 2 more larger criticisms to address.
Sure.
The first one that I will go at is, of the 2, the issue with we're not going to touch on I'm going to call it the 11-hour game. That's for later. It is the Actually, no, let's start with let's do that. Let's do the 11-hour game. And that's what I'm going to call it. It's very much an hyperbole of it. But I think the 11-hour game served as a fun little extreme point. You have a data set, and it's the one up here, right? It's like the one that is the extreme. It is not, in my opinion, and that's already bearing the lead here. What is your opinion of the 11-hour game and its perception with non-CEDH players? CEDH players, I think, have a very succinct opinion about it, generally speaking.
Okay, sure. I don't know why we're still talking about it, to be honest.
Sure.
Like, I every time I hear it in a video, I'm like, that was almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know what point are we trying to make by bringing it up? Not to say that like you are bringing it up again, but like I don't know. I just don't understand. Like what is the like aha gotcha of like bringing up the 11-hour game? It doesn't make sense to me.
I feel the same way about when Magic players in 1v1 will bring out like, oh my god, we banned 15 cards in standard last year. I don't care. I don't care that we like standard didn't go through like 7 bans in 2005. What the hell were we doing in 2005? Like, we're in such a different place right now. Like, why are we still bringing this up to inform design now? Like this member berries rose colored glasses is like bringing up all types of nonsense. We're in the here and now. What does that matter? But I feel the same way about that, even though may not be analogous.
I mean, since then, like immediately after that, I was part of a group of players and TOs that were talking about how do we address this and how do we prevent this from happening in other tournaments? Because at the time, there were no limits on round over time, especially in Top Cut. And then now we see tournaments that have like every round is 80 minutes, 20-minute overtime max in Swiss.
Right.
And then typically in top 16 or Top Cut,
right,
it's like 120 minute rounds with like 20-minute overtime.
Yeah.
And then I think it's pretty rare to see an untimed top 4. I think the most or like typical I've seen is like 3 hours.
Yeah.
So look, people have lives to live. Shit's gotta end. Like, I want to go home. I get like playing long games, and like, our game in format is incredibly complicated. So that's why it lends to those situations sometimes. But I was at so there were 2 tournaments that happened the weekend of the 11-hour game. I was at a tournament called the Lango Invitational and the Lango Open, in which I casted that tournament with a friend, Eric, the Loomer player I was talking to you about. But that happened the same weekend as the Salt Lake tournament where the 11-hour game happened. And I mean, like, we were sitting in our hotel room at like 3 a.m. watching this game. Yeah. We watched the entire game. The sun came up and like we were watching it. Like, because we were in a different time zone, right? Like, we were in Tennessee.
So you have seen with your eyes the lost mythical footage.
No. And I talked to the group that recorded it, and they're like, we don't know what to do. We lost all the footage because we recorded so long that YouTube wouldn't let us keep it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I didn't know that they did that, but that's good for me to know in the future.
It probably is great that it's not out in the world. That's my opinion, but
I actually think that it would solve a lot of problems if it were, because there's so many people that are held up on this idea of like players being mean to each other, but I don't really think that was the case. At least from a CEDH perspective, like I didn't really see anything that was that untowards, because like it I don't know. I think people are a little soft when it comes to player politics and stuff, but that really came from a judge and TO issue. I don't know how a TO let it go that long. Like, I would say, like, okay, this seems like this game is going a really long time. I'm going to park a judge at the end of the table. And if you guys don't start making game actions, that judge will start counting down from 3. And then when it hits 0, you are passing priority or passing turn to the next player.
Yeah. And I think, like, okay, so before we move on from this, like, at least from, so kind of continuing on this point, let's park it there, you know, like the type of solution that we have now, even high level, I keep bringing it up with 1v1, and I apologize. I just want to do this from what's going on at a tournament level. We already have untimed top 8s, right? Like, we already have, like, this is already a concept because we want to make sure that, generally speaking, players are able to not lose to time. And from a viewership perspective, games are able to end from a skill-based perspective. Like, decks are able to play each other out. And from a top 8 of high-level tournaments like GPs, even in 1v1, they are untimed. Like, we see finals of GPs being untimed. They're best of 5. Like, how do you manage that from a time perspective? And there are plenty of examples in the last couple of years of best of 5s going down to the 5th match. You want games to end from a skill-based perspective, just from a viewership perspective.
Sure, but
and so
you guys only have like 60 cards in your deck, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna run out of cards.
Yeah.
Whereas we have 4 players with 100 cards in our decks.
Yeah, and so that's fair. That's like extrapolation. I think, like, there should be a time, but I think what I'm trying to highlight is the concept comes from, at least from my perspective, that you want games to play out and just let the cards be the solution. But of course,
and that
then has problems. Yeah.
We have a multiplayer tournament addendum that are adding these specific rules for a multiplayer competitive format, because the tournament addendum for Magic, 60 card or whatever, doesn't really encompass what can happen in our format sometimes.
Definitely not. Yeah. Yep.
So
and I guess continuing, kind of jumping back to your point of, you believe, like, why wasn't there a judge kind of counting people down, and from a TO perspective, why that happened. You've already said there are changes that have been made to many tournaments, if not all.
Next weekend after we changed the tournament. It hasn't happened since, and it will not happen again. But that is a milestone where we're like, okay, things were getting to a point where they're so out of hand that players just couldn't win, and things were happening at flash speed and the stack was insane, and all these things. And like, I mean, some games feel like that still, and those are the games that go to draw at time.
Do you feel like the vast majority of cEDH experience, from your perspective, maybe at locals or even at a tournament level, are games that go over an hour or 2 hours, or are they on the shorter side where people are just winning on turn 1 all the time? What is your general take on, like, how long does an average cEDH game play out from your subjective experience?
It's really hard to say. It depends on what decks you're playing against, and it's been a while since I've seen a turn 1 win. I've seen turn 2s, but sometimes we have games with 4 killers sit down at a table. It doesn't matter whether they're playing turbo or not. That game's going to go long. Yeah, because it's 4 brick walls, right?
Yeah. And that's going to happen, right? Like, there are matchups like that all over any facet of Magic, where decks that are just designed to prevent your opponent from doing anything will come against each other, and it's like an unstoppable force against a immovable wall, or whatever object. You might say.
Yeah, and we have our words now too. We have these cards that are called words. we can convince people to not do stuff, and that's when it gets really hard. And I think for the average person, that is incredibly daunting to go against, especially if you manage to make your way into top 16. You're like, okay, now that I'm out of Swiss, which kind of felt like locals, now I'm in the top 16, and without realizing it, you're against, like Evan Pierce or Freedom Waffle, and like Jorman and me, and you're like, okay. It's like, I brought my deck and I got to top 16, and we're like, sorry, bud, you're not winning.
Yeah. Or things are going to be like, you're gonna need to be locked in. You can't like mentally check out at any point in this game. Like, you're gonna need. But
even
so,
like, if you don't have the experience to translate that, like you're gonna yeah, you're gonna get lost in the sauce.
Yeah. In my experience, CEDH tends to not in nowhere closest to the 11-hour game. That is definitely much an anomaly and is very much even shorter than the average Commander game in my experience, which is, in my opinion, a very big attractive point. I think a lot of Commander players don't realize it, but they don't want to play 2-hour games. I don't want to play 2-hour games of any type of Magic, any type of game. Heck, even a board game. I don't want to play a 2-hour game. That's not a thing I play games for. That like blows my mind. People play 80-minute board games, but
I can't.
That's a different discussion.
All casual EDH, but like when I played casual, we'd have days where we'd play like 2 games.
No,
just, a bunch of us hanging out, right?
Oh,
like, we're eating like pizza and just like whatever, shooting the shit. But like those games, like they took a while,
Yeah.
But even so, we have tournament games that take a long time, and usually it's like top cut or top 16, or sorry, top 16 or top 4. But we are very dedicated to avoiding the 11-hour experience. Like it's not something we want, and I think that if that's something we're being clowned on for, it's like, no, we've actually applied fixes to ensure that doesn't happen again. So I don't know why that's like.
But even from a general like tournament Magic perspective, like you signed up, you paid money to be in a tournament, you are allotted a certain amount of time in the round. You as a player, even if it's time to 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, you are allowed to use up that time. To a certain degree, obviously, slow play is a thing. But
like the thing that disturbs me most about that game is not what happened. It's that if I were at that tournament instead of the tournament that I was at, and I had made top 16 or top 4 and been in the same position, my ass is locked to that table. I'm not moving for shit. I am playing that game.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And then I'm the butt of the joke. And and I'm like, what did I do wrong? This was the structure provided to me from the tournament organizer, and if I give up, then I'm like giving up my prize money. Like, no, I'm gonna just sit and play. And
you've been here the whole day. Like you feel like now you're getting nothing, or not. Okay, not nothing, but like
I traveled. I would have traveled from Denver to Utah for that tournament. Like not for anything else. I would have been there for that. If I had to cancel my flight, so be it.
Yeah. And completely fair. Like when it comes to high level Magic like that, people make a similar, if not less, more, whatever type of dedication to that. Like you're going to be at that table. I think that's a perfectly reasonable expectation. You have set aside an amount of time. You've spoken to your family, your friends, whoever, your cat, and you said, I'm going to be out this long, whatever it is. Right. So I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. And so ultimately, let's close this off by saying the 11-hour game, which I'm happy to say, in my experience, before getting into this conversation, has been solved. We are not doing CEDH games this long. Tournament Magic doesn't need to be this long, or the structures that led to that have been diminished or dissolved from the vast majority of tournaments. And people saw this as an active problem, which means, yes, the CEDH community, as with many other things, are actively trying to make their format better.
We actually have the most power to make changes to our format compared to any other format because we're community run. Yep. If you're not an enfranchised player, you might say like, oh, well, things are stagnant, things are stale. But I promised you, and this is not just me saying this, there are so many people that are entrenched, and we just like, we really care about it. We're trying new things, and we're trying to fix things. It just, things take time, and sometimes there's not a fix available for things that are problems. Which
is, again, true for much of any game of Magic and any other TCG. That's no game system is perfect. No board game is perfect. You ever played Uno? Come on now. There's no game with variance is perfect. Everyone has an opinion.
Actually, I think the most thing that's like the thing that's most akin to the format that we play in CEDH is competitive Catan.
Oh yeah, competitive Catan. I had a small stint with I watched a ton of content 2 years ago on it. It is an interesting board game. It is an interesting board game.
It's 4-player.
Yes.
In turns, right? There's a lot of similarities. I've watched some content where people are going to tournaments and stuff. I was like, dang, this is the other side of the coin of what
yes. Competitive board games in general. There's certain ones that are. Oh man, there's some wild ones. Competitive Catan, I think, is quite peak, but I don't want to go too far into it. I've seen competitive board games. It's a wild world. It's really cool, actually. It's much, in my opinion, much better than competitive Magic. It's so cool. But it's so cool. But anyway, I think the last point that I want to address, I think, is in my opinion a bit of a gray area. I think this is the biggest gray area, because I think the first two discussions we've had, I think subjectively line up with where my perception of it has been. That the fourth player issue is largely a commander design issue. I've seen this in casual commander, at least, where, you know, the person going last is just going to have the least amount of resources. That's just true, right? Like in terms of, you know, now if you go around the table again, the first player is able to deploy first and the fourth player only has a land with your situation outlined. Even with the 11-hour game, that is an active problem that has been addressed and is more so a TO tournament structure thing, where we've seen multiple examples of throughout Magic's history, things like that already being addressed. I mean, heck, we had, because of viewership, we changed the mulligan rule. Like the mulligan rule was changed because the viewership of a tournament was perceivably bad, right? Like we've seen this already being addressed. And so now with the last thing that I want to bring up, when it comes to winning a game of cEDH, a big thing that you mentioned that we haven't touched on yet is the fact that you can win, you can lose, and you can draw a game. Now, draws are a thing in all of Magic. It is an important part of the game in terms of how you have your breakers throughout like Swiss rounds. But draws are interesting in cEDH because of what they have in the point system. And we've already alluded to this. So before we go into the draws, Logan, if you don't mind, just maybe a brief summary. What is the general point structure of a cEDH tournament? Is it just win-loss? Is it a different amount of points for winning? Do you gain points for losing? How do cEDH tournaments work from that perspective?
Yeah, so let's use the 100-player tournament as an example. 5 rounds of Swiss, you play 5 games against vaguely randomly seeded opponents. If you win a game, you get 5 points. If you draw a game, you get 1 point. If you lose a game, you get 0 points. And in that perspective, you probably need about 12 points to make top 16, maybe 13 points.
In a 100-player tournament.
Yeah, which is like 2 wins and 3 draws or 2 draws.
Sure. Generally speaking, that's probably what you need. And so why is it that draws are not only so important, just like from a general points perspective, but why are they also so prevalent? Why are they, like in cEDH itself, what is causing all these draws to happen where we have to give draws a point? From a general perspective, I don't need you to name cards, but like what is it about cEDH that maybe is causing these draws?
In cEDH, you have different types of cards in your deck. They're either value, means it makes mana or draws you cards. They're win cons, or there's some sort of interaction, whether it's onboard interaction or stack interaction. And frankly, we don't need that many win cons because we have powerful tutors. We have the most powerful tutors in pretty much any format. I mean, black has vampiric tutor, demonic tutor, white has enlightened tutor, blue has mystical tutor, red has gamble. But we can just find our win cons pretty easily. And if we draw enough cards, we're gonna draw them anyway.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is that, like, if you find your win con, because there's not that many win cons in your deck, it's more likely that your opponents either have value spells or interaction spells.
Right.
And so you have to have a win con plus interaction to back up your win con that is greater than the number of interaction pieces than your opponents have.
Yeah.
And if your opponents have value engines like Ristic Study or Mystic Remora on the table, that's representing additional cards in hand that obviously aren't in hand yet. So when you start casting your win con or your interaction pieces, your opponents have more opportunities to draw more interaction. So that makes it incredibly hard to win.
And so from that extension, what does that mean in terms of how does that situation that with all that accumulated value, cards and interaction to stop your opponent, how does that lead to a draw? Maybe is there a very bare bones example that you could provide of a situation that maybe is a draw? And how did we get to there from the example you listed of, you know, Ristic Studies or multiple draw engines or whatever it is? So
sometimes this happens where, let's say 2 players next to each other, it's pretty apparent that like they have sufficient resources, both have just tutored, and it's very clear that they both have a potential win, whether it's on their current turn or the next turn. And the remaining interaction at the table through conversation is not enough to stop both players. So then the conversation goes, hey, person that's going next, I understand that you're probably about to present a win. We can stop you. And if you have enough interaction to get through, that's one thing, right? But that's the chance that they would have to take. But, you know, we would say,
sure,
we can stop you. But the player to your left, or the player that's next after you, also has a win. It's like, we can tell by our experience, and we can look at the board state, what they can do. They can win too, but they just like need to untap. And so it's like, okay, we can either stop you and then we'll draw, because otherwise we're going to defend your win,
right?
And then force the other player to say, no, actually we should draw. Where that it sounds very strange to the average player, because they're going to be like, well, this is like, why don't you just win the game? Because it's not always possible.
Right.
If you're that player where you have two players saying, hey, we can stop you, and you don't have anything else to do other than play out your win, the better solution is to draw, because like otherwise you're going to lose to the next player after you.
Yeah.
And that's negative EV, or expected value.
Because you get, if you lose, one player gets all 5 points and the rest of the table gets 0. Whereas again, everyone in the draw gets at least 1 point towards the fictional 10, 12, whatever amount of points you need to potentially get to a top cut.
Yep. And I think it's a very hard skill to learn when to draw in cEDH. And the answer is not always. You can't really draw your way into top 16. Occasionally that happens, and we don't like when that's able to be done. Like, because if all the games are drawing, then you just need like kind of one win and the rest are draws to get to top 16. But that doesn't happen very often. So like it still takes skill, and you still have to win games in order to make the top cut.
Yeah.
So if you're drawing a ton, it's hard to get out of that mindset where it's like, I need to win. And that's like the next level up as a player is going from losing to like, okay, I can now draw games, which is great.
Yeah.
That's a level up, right? And then you have to go from like drawing to winning, which is almost harder.
Yeah. Just as hard, or even more hard. So with that in mind, with situations that do occur a significant amount of time, maybe not the majority, but still a statistically significant amount of time, do you believe that drawing, or the amount of draws in the cEDH format, is a problem? I feel like so my perception of your response previously was that you don't believe it's a problem, but again, feel free, like, it's part of the game, it's part of the skill.
I think it's more important that we address why draws are worth 1 point first, because people are going to ask that.
Sure.
If draws were worth 0, so let's say it's 5-0-0 is the point structure, we will end up in a lot of ties. So let's say a lot of people win one game. You have 20 people that won one game. How do you make a top 16 from 20 people that have 5 points?
Sure.
I mean, like, do you know what the answer is?
I don't. That's literally a nightmare to think about. I don't. I like, already my eyes are, my brain's smoothing over. Yeah, like,
this is not like a trick question or anything. I just
but I get what you're trying to say with this. Immediately, I'm just like,
so the answer is that you have something that's called a breaker. Normally, like, your points are the main breaker. So you have whoever has the most points, and then goes down to let's say even though there's a tie at 16th place for 5 points, there's like 5 people that have 5 points. It's like, how do you determine who actually makes top 16? Well, the answer is your opponent win percentage. So how many games your opponents have won. If your opponents are doing well, your opponent win percentage actually goes up, and that's a good thing. Because that means that you've lost to good players. Which means you are better than the players that are losing to bad players. And that sounds weird, but
no, it's not a perfect system, but it is. That is the general Magic system. Yeah.
It's a pretty good system, because like, if your only loss is like to the player that has won every other game, your win percentage is gonna be really high. But the problem is that if you are relying on opponent win percentage as the main breaker, you're now incentivized to throw the game instead of draw to the player with the highest opponent win percentage.
That
Because
makes sense.
you want your opponent win percentage to go up even more. So now you're creating a king making situation, which in my opinion is way worse than just drawing the game.
Yeah. And can potentially be a, the underlying kind of small percentage thing that people talk about with like collusion and everything. It gives a lot of like weird random control to people for an outcome that isn't really ideal at all.
Because you're not even like using your spells like the way, like we're already borderline not using our spells the way that they're intended sometimes.
Yes.
And like now if you're just like, doesn't matter, I don't see a way through, I see this player has way higher opponent win percentage than me. I'm going to just play the rest of the game, and whatever I do, I'm going to protect whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Now it's like a weird team game, and like we're not currently in the situation where that happens. Mm-hmm. So like I'd prefer to stay out of that realm.
Yeah.
And draws being worth 1 point keeps us out of that realm.
Okay. I actually like that. I've never had that. I've never heard this reasoning before. So I appreciate that explanation. When it comes to, at least from that perspective, it feels like draws are...
sorry, just to clarify, the current structure is points are the main breaker.
Yes.
And then after that is opponent win percentage. So
yes,
that would continue to be the case, but because draws are worth points...
Yeah, but the primary driver...
The main breaker.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the primary driver is the kind of point. So would you say that still, even to just prevent that, without going into further kind of back and forth of like draws and everything, just in terms of this initial argument of draws being worth a point, that draws are an integral part of the game and not necessarily a fault, or do you still feel like it's a fault? Because in my opinion, like you're to me subjectively, you're changing my mind on draws just off of that argument. That makes a lot of sense to me.
I think draws are integral to the game, although I think they're happening a little bit more than I would care for. Okay.
And do you feel like there's because I'm going to go into a couple ones. Do you feel like initially there's a solution to that? Or do you feel like, again, like, is it like the fourth player thing? Is there a ban or unban that can solve that? Or is it just a gameplay structure that we can't like, you're saying you feel like they happen a little too often. Is there a reason for that for you?
Right now, it's very hard to push through a win, especially through multiple value engines and heuristic study and copy of heuristic study.
Right.
I don't think heuristic study inherently is the main issue. I do think that the ability to copy it so easily and have multiple and just play this value engine game and play with flash enablers on the stack is like, that's kind of the main... I don't know if it's the cause, more of the symptom of the current card pool.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason like fast mana being banned is harmful, because like if we can't rely on our commanders with things like Jeweled Lotus, then we're going to have to rely on more value engines in R99 like Heuristic Study, Mystic Remora, even gross like Heartwood Storyteller and stuff like that. But like it's weird, right? But like, I mean, there's decks that are designed to use the card, which is crazy. You know?
Yeah, wild. Yes.
But as far as like draws and number of draws, I think it's a player mentality thing too.
Yeah.
Because as soon as there's like a win on the stack, people are like, "Oh, let's draw. You know, let's draw instead of we can stop him and we need to draw."
Yeah.
And most of the time, if you stop somebody's win, they're not like blown out enough where they just like are dead.
Yeah.
So like
most of the time, except for Atali players. Except for Atali.
But like I think the biggest example is like if you use your Necropotence and you go down to 2 life and then there's enough damage on board to kill you and you're not able to push through a win. At some point, like you can try to push for a draw and like that might be your only out in order to like not completely lose out on your potential for points in that pod is to draw as the Necro player. But sometimes it's just like, oh, my win con got stopped and now I need to draw. And like, I think that's a mentality issue. I think that's a player experience problem.
Yeah. Okay. So like there are situations where, kind of adding to the total number of draws where players can reasonably just solve the situation without jumping to a draw. And that could probably change the amount of draws happening enough where it's not perceivably an issue.
Yeah. And the biggest way I found out from this is, and I've started changing my perspective, is that like in tournaments, especially in games where I'm like, okay, this would go to a draw. If we agree to a draw, I'm like, hey, wait, before we clean up, let's just continue to play it out if we have time and see what the actual result or the outcome of the game would have been.
Yeah.
And that has been enough to shift some people's perspective on the game as to like, maybe this didn't actually play out how I thought it would have.
Yeah. But hey, we've already agreed to a draw, so.
Right. But I mean, sometimes in a tournament, like you don't want to take the chance. And that's understandable. But
fair enough. Yeah.
If you have the time, then it's also like, okay, maybe you should.
But that's important, right? Adding situations and just general data points and statistics to people's minds to change their opinion is important, because they can always go back to that situation and see, hey, this was a situation where we drew, but we didn't need to, which is important. That's good. That's a good practice to have.
And we've made it clear that like it's very hard to win in our format. So I think an option outside of just losing is probably worthwhile having.
Yeah.
Because like in 1v1, it's pretty clear. You will draw mostly intentionally, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine, because like sometimes you want to go take a break or get lunch or whatever, because like if you just need a draw to make top 8 or whatever, like you can calculate that. That's tournament math. That's fine.
Yeah. And
occasionally in tournaments for us, like if we get to round 5 and it's a top pod where it's like everyone has 16 points in round 5, we'll kind of like stare at each other and be like, we don't need to play this game. Like there's actually, it's actually detrimental for us to play the game.
Yeah.
On the tournament structure. So like, why don't we just draw and then we take a break?
In that case, let's say, you've laid out some pretty reasonable points, but I'm an unreasonable Magic player. Sure. Let's say I don't want to hear that. I don't care. There are too many draws. I played one cEDH tournament, and my sample size is, of course, very important. And I don't care what you say. There are other countries and people trying different solutions. Why aren't we doing these solutions? Why aren't we trying these solutions? Or have we tried said solutions?
Restarts?
So restarts are one of them. I've heard different structures happening in like Japan in terms of like not points and everything. Like what is your take on these? Because you've already outlined that maybe draws aren't necessarily too much of a problem outside of player perspective, and if we change player mentality, it might become lower. But I'm saying, no, I don't care. It's still a problem. What about these solutions?
I think cEDH culture is really cool because it differs between like regions and countries.
Yeah.
So the solutions that are being applied in other countries make sense for their culture. And,
yes.
For us, if we were given the ability to restart as Americans, I don't think things would go well, because we just
do you mind elaborating? Like, what is the proposed solution here for restarts?
Restarting incentivizes everyone to play turbo and just jam.
Yes.
Because if you play turbo and you jam through a win, guess what? You win. And if you don't, and someone stops you and you go say, well, now I'm going to use my interaction, but I'm only going to use it if we get a restart. And then people are incentivized to keep hands against turbo that are like literally just pact of negation.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, I'm going to interact with your necro unless like, but not if I'm only going to interact with your necro if we restart.
Yeah.
But then you start having those conversations, and it's like, okay, well, how many, like why not just play the game? Like that's not, it doesn't really fit with our culture of the way that cEDH is played, in my opinion.
Yeah. And how does that fit with, like, so where are, so this one's interesting, like where are restarts proposed in other countries, cultures, whatever? Like I can see how that would not be with kind of North American culture for sure. Restarts sound like an absolute nightmare. But are there, like, is there a world where that is a solution? Because I follow your reasoning. I fully on board. I understand why that's not a solution. Is there a world where that is?
I mean, it happens all the time in Europe, and that's currently the structure as far as I know. I don't know if that happens everywhere in Europe, but I know that they are suffering particular problems, and maybe I'm not 100% privy to them.
Sure.
But they're suffering like different problems than we are, because I think that a lot of their deck building goes in mind with like, well, it's potential to restart. So like, as long as I can stop somebody and then offer a restart, then I can restart. And like mulligans get weird too. And I don't know. I think it introduces another layer of like metagaming the current game you're in that I don't think it's necessary.
Right, because now you've played out a whole game, you've understood certain cards that exist in certain play patterns and styles, and now you can force a draw and then use them to your advantage potentially in the game 2.
Whereas, like, as a tournament player, I'm playing the deck building game and the meta game, and like learning and designing my deck to play against the meta or play the meta deck or whatever I want. You know, bring whatever deck I want to the tournament. Then once I'm in the tournament, I'm playing the actual game and the actual round, but I'm also playing the tournament structure. So I'm taking into consideration the tournament structure into the game actions I make, and like whether I'm offering a draw or not. Does it make sense for me in my tournament journey to do that right now, and things like that. Okay. Whereas if I'm introducing something like restarts, that just like adds a ton more complexity that I don't think is really necessary. And sometimes we get into game states where it's too complicated to move forward. And for us in America, that's a draw, not a restart.
Right.
And that's okay. I think it's fine.
I think like from the outside looking in, it also feels frustrating because, I mean, tell me, does the round timer restart on a reset?
As far as I know, no, it does not.
Oh my.
So that's why you're
kill me now, like
turbo. Right?
Yeah.
Because you can assemble a win very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And then also if let's say you were a participant in that game, right? And player 1's going for a win, player 2 stops them and requests a restart. If you're playing turbo in seat 3, now you have another chance to develop a turbo hand and go faster, like your mulligan start over, right?
Yeah. You get a brand new look, you get a brand new chance.
So like, why wouldn't everyone just? It's so like meta defining, I think, to an extent that I don't know. Yeah, I think it causes too many problems.
I feel like I definitely agree. I'm trying really hard to find a counterpoint for it, and it's not working. I'm not a fan. It's not working. I don't want to go to Europe and play CEDH. It's not working.
No, I do. I want to go to Europe and play CEDH, but then I want to come back and like say, like, okay, here's
yes. In a vacuum, I want to go to another country and play Magic. But yes,
of course,
yeah.
And then as far as the Japanese system, I'm actually very familiar with this system. In Japanese CEDH culture, players don't really talk to each other that much, and there's not like politicking that goes on. They also play, generally speaking, a little bit suboptimal CEDH decks because there is no proxy culture there. So I will say that there are tons of players that have absolutely perfect meta CEDH decks, but there's also a bunch of players that don't. So I would say that like their meta is a little different sometimes. They also are, because there's no politicking, they just jam for the most part. And the Japanese point structure is such that if I recall correctly, each player starts with 1,000 points. They wager 7% of their points at each pod, and so that goes into a pool. And then the winner of the pod gets all of those points. So as you win more, you wager more, but you also like steal other people's points, and it's your percent current points. So it's not always a flat amount.
Right.
And then they also do something where it's blind pairings and blind points. So you don't know exactly how many points are coming into the pool or into the pod. And then draws are worth 0. So the points are just burned in case of a draw, which is very interesting. But there are also some weird situations where a player with fewer wins can get a higher standing than a player with more wins because of who you're winning against, because it's random pairings.
Okay.
So to me, that's a little strange. It's also like very complicated, and like we're Americans, we're dumb. We like.
Well, hold on. I still haven't figured out the optimal gambling joke to insert here because we're wagering points. I haven't figured out the optimal joke, but on top of Americans being dumb and gambling jokes.
But like 5 points, small number, like 1,000 points. That's way too big. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly. Now this, okay. So this one's interesting. It is complicated. It is. I've had this like explained to me before, and still, even with someone as succinct as you explaining to me, it's still a lot. It's still a lot to calculate. I feel like I'm walking around with my calculator on my phone in between rounds to see where I'm at.
So let me tell you where this comes into play for us. As one of the hosts of the Critical EDH League, which we have every month, and we have a CDH online CDH league. Little shout out for us, but we have about 500 members monthly, and about 100 games that take place per day, which is just insane. We love our community, and it's really awesome. We use the Japanese point system because it's a league, and the reason we use it is because there's no set times where people play. If you can get a pod together, great, you can get a pod together, but you have a number of points as a player that is kind of your elo or your ranking, and you carry that with you. So if you're matched up against lower ranking players, they're wagering less, but they stand to win more against you.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So in the league, because the league takes place over a month essentially, and you can play as many games as you want. If we just had people just jamming in a flat point structure, it would almost certainly go to people that win. It doesn't matter how many games, but like if they just play a lot of games, you'll get more points.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But now, because we're using percentages of your current points total, it's a little bit more fair and more weighted because you just carry that points total with you.
Yeah. So I guess for people that are maybe still not cluing in, for example, if you're someone that goes into the pod with only, again, I'm making up a number that may statistically happen or not, but you have 20 points to offer. And the other 3 players have, they have, I don't know, it's out of 1,000, right? So like 300 points to offer. Each of them have 300 points to offer. So you will offer them less points because 7% of 20 is way less than 7% of 300. You will gain way more. Exactly. And so therein lies the balance of being able to go up and down. Whereas, as you're saying, with the regular point system, the people that play more and win more, they'll be gaining 5 points, 5 points, 5 points versus drawing at 1, 1 or 0, 0, which is probably the biggest draw to this system, in my opinion. Where do you, so you already mentioning that for your own community, you're using this at a league level, and for the structure that you have in place.
That's okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get my screen shared. So this is March. And then you can see like opponent win percentage. We also track, but really don't use because there's really no ties in the system because of number of, like, the points are so they're rounded here, but like there's decimals past these. So,
right.
But like this player, Kenrith, he has 3,022 points with a 40% win rate and 84 games played.
Okay.
Like that's incredible. That's really, really good.
Yeah. You're telling me, like, goddamn. Yeah.
But that was just the month of March.
Yeah.
And we had a total of 630 players with 337 of those players playing 10 or more games.
Yeah.
So
shout out to the above 50% win players, by the way. Shout out the above 50.
Yeah. And we see like big names like Hires plays in our league. Matt Hayes, if you know who he is. But like there's tons of people that play here, but the point structure works for us because we're trying to adapt and try new things and use what makes sense for the events that we're holding. This is not just us, but cEDH tournament organizers at large do this because we're not this exact example, but we really do care about what is best for the community. Like we are trying to make things that work, and for our purposes in this league, that's what we found that works because, if Kenrith goes into a game with 3,000 points against people that have, 1,500 points, I think they should be wagering a bit more, right?
Yeah.
And then they might not get as many points because they're playing against air quotes lower skilled players or players that aren't doing as well. Yeah. But if those players that are lower skilled win, they better be taking like a huge chunk of these points. Yeah. And they should be rewarded for it. Yeah. But because this happens over thousands of games over the course of a month, this structure seems to be working out a little bit better. In a closed tournament, I think the Japanese point structure can cause some weird issues. Like I said, if you win more games against lower skilled players because they're randomly matched. Yeah. Sometimes someone who has fewer wins than you can surpass you and bump you out of top 16. Yes. And I don't like that. Yeah. And I think that was like you mentioned it earlier too, but I think that was the one criticism that I would have had against it, because in general, this point system seems really interesting to implement just over a larger course of a tournament, whereas a singular tournament, it feels like this may not be the ideal structure due to random pairings.
what is your take on, obviously this is succeeding at a league level where you, for your own community, have a larger period of games over a period of time. What is your take on maybe trying this at a tournament level where you do have those situations where, as you outlined, someone that has a disproportionate amount of wins to you can just knock you out of top 16? Is that acceptable because maybe it happens not enough of the time? Like, what do you think for a 60 to 100 player tournament?
I think largely some modification of this system will probably see testing and then acceptance over the next year or so.
Interesting.
But I think it will probably have to include some reference to draws to make it more palatable for us. So like in our league, we've played around with 0-point draws, or just like if the pod draws, then the points are burned. And then we've also played around with a small percentage, or let's say half the points are returned to the players.
So when you say burn, sorry, does that mean like everyone loses 7%?
Yeah, they're removed from the system at large.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I refer to as burned.
Sure.
But let's say everyone goes in with 1,000 points. You wager 7%, which is 70, and then that whole pod is like 280 points are being wagered, like are on the line.
Yep.
If the pod draws, then maybe everyone gets 35 points back.
Sure.
Instead of the points being burned. There's also a system we can use where the points are evenly distributed regardless of player standing. So if you have a very high number of points and then the pot is huge, but a player with very, very low standing is also in the pod, and the pod draws, the player with low standing actually gets more points relative to their total back. Sure.
Which adds like another level of like calculation and something else to like consider, I guess.
Right. And it is weird, but like I think that overall, I think these systems are built into Top Deck, and we can mess around with these numbers.
Which is good, actually.
Mess around with the systems too.
That is good. Yeah.
It's really cool. But I think these will start to see adoption in some way over the next year or so.
So, okay, let's expand on that. So there already are, which is interesting, forms of adaptation outside of just your community. There are forms of adaptation for larger cEDH events for not just the Japanese structure, just other structures in general. But it seems like from what you're saying that largely this is the prevalent one, this wagering Japanese kind of overall point system, or am I misunderstanding that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's not prevalent because not a whole lot of people are using it, but I think there's testing going on with it. And in the eyes of like fairness, it seems pretty fair when it comes down to it, because
that's my take. Yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah,
if you're at high points, you're standing to lose more if you lose, and if you're at low points, you can potentially win more if you win against a good player. That seems fair, right? Because it's kind of like a graduated risk and reward type thing.
Yeah.
And then you also remove the points breaker, where like draws don't matter in the same way. They might matter in a different way depending on what system's used. And then opponent win percentage almost never comes up because no one ever has the same point total. So
right.
You don't have to use opponent win percentage as a backup breaker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it fixes some of those, but it's going to take time to evaluate what other new problems it will introduce.
So before we go into maybe just like closing out on that, are these the only two systems that have been attempted? Are there other ones that you've seen kind of tested in terms of trying to fix the tie issue, point system, whatever it is?
As far as I know, this is kind of it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be frank.
Yeah. Not that there needs to be more. It's just, this is an exploratory question of, is there more?
Competitive multiplayer is a new thing. Like what other analogies are there to competitive multiplayer Magic? It's like I came up with Catan as kind of close, but there's no point. Like like you have a number of objectives you need to win, but there's no real like placing or any, like you either win the match or you don't. So I don't think there's really any standard for this. So we're kind of flying, on our own with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And what are, I guess, what are the big hesitations that right now, if this is a solution for the Japanese system or some form of it, what are the hesitations that larger tournaments have with trying to adopt this? Is it a systems level thing where maybe the software they're using doesn't do it? Is it a TO thing where they're just like, I'm going to stick with what's tried and true? What are the barriers for trying this? From your experience, at least.
I think it's just like player acceptance. It's just like players have to be willing to try it and attend events with the tournaments that are trying it. And I think we can't try it at too large of events because I think there's already kind of the standard of expectation there.
Like it's like people will just sign. Less people will come if exactly. How would you? Okay, before I even ask that question, how do you feel about not just the fact that players may not want to, try this new system out, but how do you feel about getting that adoption rate up there? You're already invested in it from your league perspective, but from putting it into 60 to 100 to whatever up cEDH tournaments, like, do you think there should be a larger push for that, or do you feel like it should just stay separated? Because
I mean, like, TOs are trying it, and like we're having these discussions, behind closed doors and stuff, but I can't exactly speak to all the things that are being planned, but I know that at the one event that we're hosting in June, instead of doing top 16, we're cutting to top 40. So to give players more of a chance to realize their standing on day one. So instead of I would say a tournament structure of 300 players would normally be 7 rounds of Swiss, 5 rounds on day one, 2 rounds on day two, then top cut 16, then top 4 after. What we're doing is 6 rounds of Swiss on day one. At the end of day one, you're standing. And so you either make top 40, which is day 2. And then from top 40, you go to top 16 and then top 4 after. So I think that a lot of these things are being tried. And regarding this point structure and changes there, I think that it'll happen eventually. But sometimes we have bigger fish to fry, and a lot of this stuff needs testing, because even if it goes well in one tournament, it might go really poorly in the next tournament after. And then we have to refactor and try again.
Okay. So right now, with the attempt to quote unquote solve the draw issue, we're at a kind of TBD point where potentially change is imminent and something is being attempted. We are collecting data. I think we're almost at pretty much like that end of the discussion where we've talked about the bigger criticisms of, kind of where we're at with the status. So let's kind of summarize that. With that recent one that we just discussed with tiebreakers, we are kind of impending. We are trying out a new point system that can work. Testing is happening, and whether that be a perfect adoption or some type of hybrid, it's being tested. And you have already, in your own personal league, in your own content, in your own spaces, have been trying this out yourself. Is that true to say? Now, the 11-hour game, that's an anomaly. That's been solved. The timing of tournament structure and the timing of top cuts has already been solved. We've addressed this, and very, very soon. It was very much a quick fix. And the last bit, when it comes to 4th player seating, that is something that probably can't necessarily be addressed, but that's because it's a game structure thing that isn't really necessarily a cEDH exclusive issue. I do hope that it can be addressed. I hope that there is some sort of solution, but I think for the most part, we're just cautious to not use game keywords and stuff to fix it, because that just makes things really weird. Okay. So in that case, let's use these last couple of minutes. Let's round things out here in terms of just a general catch-all section. We're at this point where it feels like the majority of cEDH issues, from my perspective, are either solved or are in the process of being solved. The format is actually constantly improving. The format is not actually this cesspool of nonsense that I think a lot of people have this perspective of. And on average, from my experience of playing quite literally 90% of Magic, I have a deck for 90% of formats in this game. cEDH feels like it's in a better place than the majority of other Magic formats. I can say that objectively. Interesting. From the experiences that I have, I can say that objectively. I think it's because the core community really cares. And because it's community driven, we're going to find solutions for things that the community thinks are problems. And they take time, but like anything good, it's worth waiting for, I think. And the format's a lot different than when I started
2.5 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
obviously bans happened and stuff, but even so, with every set, I think the meta changes. With every big tournament, the meta changes. We've seen new decks pop up like Rog Ishai, but like, I mean, just stuff changes all the time, and that's because players want to change.
Let me go through some quick, fun little rapid fire questions.
Sure,
I'm gonna put you on the spot with some of them. Okay, your favorite cEDH deck?
Right now or like all time?
All time.
Oh, it's gonna be close, but like Nadu's really up there.
Yo, this demon. Okay, all right, fine. Nadu.
I thought the deck was like actually incredibly fair at the time. Like, yes, it had weird play patterns, but at the time, like, it didn't really use Dockside, didn't really care about that kind of stuff because it's not in those colors.
Yeah,
you can clone it, sure, but the deck was just powerful, and to see something powerful and new and interesting archetype and run kind of these weird, strange cards was like really cool.
What is the deck you're playing right now?
Most recently, I played Thrasios Kodama at a tournament.
Okay.
And that is a landfall combo deck, which is very, very cool. We don't see a lot of that in cEDH.
What is a cEDH deck that you wished was better? Like, maybe you're just a real fan of like the legendary itself and you just wish the deck was better. Mine personally, Lumra, but you know.
I think that deck's plenty powerful. What is a cEDH deck that I think is better, or
like you want to be better? Like, it's not tier one. Like it's just, it's close, but it's not there. What
when
is
I
something?
played casual, I really wanted like Henzi to be a cEDH deck.
Okay.
Because it has a lot of interesting and powerful things you can do. But because it's just like it takes too much time to do them, so I think that it's not that good. But as far as like decks right now, I really wish Glarb were better. And I think that's where a lot of people know me from playing Glarb, because I won a big tournament on Glarb about a year ago. But right now I'm not playing the deck because I just don't think it's good enough. Mine
personally is the Wise Mothman. I wish Food Chain was a little bit better, but you know, fine. I'll play a Sultai value pile.
Sure. Yeah.
What is your, two questions? What is your least favorite part of cEDH? In general, it could be a singular card. It could just be a concept. What is your least favorite part?
I don't know. I don't really think of things in that framing. I think my least favorite part of cEDH is like wanting to spread my love for the format and then just be met with resistance of people that don't play it and say like, you know, your format's trash. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, I promise it's not.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part is engaging with people that don't play it.
What is your favorite part of cEDH?
It's teaching someone the format.
Yeah.
I think, and just seeing like that kind of like spark in their eyes when they start to get it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh wait, this is actually really fun. And not only is it really fun, but you can be competitive at it. And seeing a player go from, I think a good example is Jordan. He's part of our crew. He started playing last summer. I first met him. He brought a deck that he thought was okay, and he top forward his first locals and his second locals after that. I was like, dude, you got something going. He's like, yeah, those are my first 2 tournaments. He's like, that seems really fun.
Pretty good. Okay.
And then, you know, we tracked him, and then he eventually joined our crew, and he's been, you know, having ups and downs. And I think he won his first locals. Like, he's done well, but he like actually won his first locals, which I say locals, but it was like 35 players.
Yeah.
It's not a small tournament. A couple weeks ago, and he was just like over the moon, and I was like, it's so awesome to see
winning
you know,
anything in Magic is always fun. Yeah, it's always good,
but it's really hard in our format.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I can imagine with everything involved in terms of even just politicking and deck choices and play and everything. Yes. 2 more questions.
No, I was gonna say, you know, you mentioned earlier like our expected win rate's 25%. I'm a air quotes top cEDH player, and I maintain about a 33% win rate.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing about Commander players. Like they always forget seat disparity. Like, again, in a vacuum, you are 1 in 4 people, statistically speaking, you will win 25% of the time. Anything above that is amazing. 26% is amazing. Like, anything above that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
What is a color pair that you wish was better? Mine personally is Boros. I wish Boros was better.
I don't think Boros needs to be better. I think it's exactly where it needs to be. Like Zerda is a really good deck.
But that's like it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Golgari. There's like nothing in Golgari. Like, because the colors themselves like really do lack. Like Boros is good with acceleration in my subjective experience. Golgari just lacks acceleration and good protection.
I think Selesnya needs to be better.
You're not a brigand lover?
I mean the deck is good, but like the actual pairing, what it offers to most decks is not that strong.
I agree.
Like if you look at the extended like into Bant or into Naya, like Selesnya doesn't offer that much.
Fair enough. My last piece will be closing out. What are some things that we can look forward to from a cEDH perspective from you, Logan? What are some upcoming projects you have? What are some ongoing projects that you have?
Oh gosh, we're all busy. Our group kind of goes to some of the larger tournaments together, but sometimes we split off. Right now, Jordan and I are going to MagicCon Vegas. That's gonna be our first MagicCon. So that's in like 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then after that, we've got the Siege coming up, which is a 300 plus player tournament in Denver. That's going to be a big one. We're raffling a guy's cradle, which keeps going up in price.
It's like
$1,200 now for some reason.
Yes.
But aside from that, like we're looking to continue to caretake the league. We're finishing up the first season of the league, which has been 12 months.
Yeah.
That should be coming up soon in May. And then we're going to have a big event for that. But like, we just like connecting with cEDH players overall. It doesn't matter whether you play in tournaments or not. And we want people to have a home to play the format they love. And I think that's really important for us. So as far as like plans and whatnot, I don't know. Just keep playing.
Yeah.
Enjoying the format.
Yeah. Fair enough. I myself am actually, for the 3-4 people that maybe made it this far in the conversation, I'm making a big content shift where I'm buying the equipment needed for doing recorded content. And the two things I'm going to be including. So I don't know if you're familiar with Card Market and at least like maybe Mangu's Workshop. They're big in the 1v1 space. So they'll like recorded 1v1 content.
Oh,
and
sure.
They're the only two, I think, channels that do it. So I'm going to try and attempt that as a solo operation. But I'm also going to put cEDH content on there because I want to add multiplayer. But as a solo operation, I can't edit that long of Commander content. But cEDH content, generally speaking, is a lot.
Go to tournaments and film content at tournaments. Like, set up a recording of a pod, like a tournament pod, and then break down the pod.
Yeah.
Because that would be really interesting. Like people do that already, but I think for you, if you want an easy in, start going to tournaments and then be like, hey, I would love to make content and talk to the TOs. They would love it.
It's an extent. Once I get my filming rig reasonable enough, I would like to go there. There's 2 big hubs here up in Ontario, at least, that do them. Generally speaking, there's 2. There's actually, shout out, I'm gonna shout them out. The Southern Ontario cEDH League, the SOCs, something. I'm in their Discord. They're great people. They're actually some of the best Magic players ever, in terms of just great people. Nice. But shout out to them. They're great people. But I will let you close this out, Logan. I've said my piece. I listen to my self-talk all friggin' day long. What is the way that you want to close this video out in terms of how people feel about cEDH, what they can take from it, and any closing thought you have?
I mean, you and I have talked for an hour and a half, 2 hours now at this point.
Yeah.
And just keep in mind that online interactions, even if they're longer form, are always much shorter than this. And I think that if there's this many people that like the format, there's something going right. Like people really enjoy it. And no amount of people saying like, oh, your format's broken or whatever is going to take that away from me.
Yeah.
Or from the other players that play.
Yeah.
I if you don't enjoy it and it's not the thing for you, that's fine. Like I totally get it. That's, like modern's not for me.
Yeah.
And standard's definitely not for me. But at some point, like, I don't know, the whole like don't yuck other people's yum thing is kind of weird to me. I get it, like there's problems in our format, but we're also trying to solve them. It's not like we're just like, oh, if C4 loses a lot, oh well. Like that's not what's happening, And a lot of this happens in closed door discussions because we want to have these like more open conversations with people that are more in the know about it. And a lot of times that doesn't really constitute public comment on it. And sometimes like these ideas are bad and then they're bad and they go away. But other times we're going to try them and see what comes of it and take the data from it and try to apply fixes and changes and all that stuff. Like we care about the format very deeply. I think that anytime I go on defending the format, like it's clear that I care about the format and I'm not the only person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think you're right. The continued success of the format, the amount of people playing it, it's not a flash in the pan. cEDH is not going to end next month. It'll not end next year. It'll get even bigger, even better, with especially in the Commander format panel with the high profile folks that are primarily cEDH players, even joining them, informing opinions as to how the format is curated is really important.
Yep. Absolutely, totally agree.
And I think where I'll kind of end this off is, again, Logan, thank you for joining me for this discussion. This was great. This was productive. What I will also do is obviously anything that you want to shout out. You've already shout out your own league and your own community, but I will also be doing a bit of a small intro to also shout those out. So anything, Logan, that you have in the description box down below, in the comment section, I'll also create like a pinned comment for anything you have my way, Logan, to kind of shout out. But I think
everything's on the CriticalEDH link tree. So
yeah, exactly. I can just like add that and there you go. That's all there.
Yeah, we've got a healthy Discord of like 3,500 members now at this point. And like I said, the largest online cEDH league. We love. Oh, it's time to go. We love taking care of those players and fostering a safe and healthy place for them to compete, because that's what Magic is just competition. When you boil it down to it, it's like we want to win, we want to play against each other and have fun. And whether this format's right for you or not, I don't know. It's fun. That's all I can tell you. It's really fun. You give it an honest shot. Like that's.
The age-old internet meme of the children yearn for the mines when it comes to Magic. Children yearn for competition. They yearn for the wins, if you will. But thank you again, Logan, for joining me for the discussion. And I think we'll
really appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll end it off here. Thank you.